What's up, everybody? Hey, another edition of Out of the Blind podcast. You know, it's been a minute. I've been getting hate mail because I haven't had these things going, and I've had people reach out to me like, I got my buddy hooked to this, and you haven't done one in months, and so we're back. So, first things first, I want to thank one of our main sponsors, which is Back Down South Clothing over in Lindale, Texas. Great stuff, great products, guys. You guys can go on their website. If you put in Out of the Blind 15, you get 15% off of all their fine linens that they would have. I mean like sheets and comforters, but like stuff that you put on your body. And it's awesome, So make sure you check those guys out. Lindale, Texas, awesome stuff. They always got cool gear, new stuff coming out, so check them out. You can see them on Instagram, Facebook, all the medias, whichever one you got. So, but I've been following this guy that I've got on the show for a little while. As you guys all know, I'm a food whore, and I eat all things odd, and so I've been following this chef around, not in a creepy weird way, but I've been following him around, on social media, and sliding into those DMs here and there, and so it's been pretty fun. But I want to welcome Chef Jean-Paul Bourgeois to the show. And welcome to the show, dude. I really am glad I finally got you on here.
Yeah. Thank you, and A+ on the pronunciation, man. You must have been reading the Cajun encyclopedia or learning your French or something like that. That was good.
Thanks, man. Do people mess that up a lot?
Yeah. I say it's pretty often, and even in Texas. We're just a state away being where I'm from in Louisiana, but now living in Houston, I feel like that's a pretty common occurrence. Although there's a lot of transplants from Louisiana to Texas here that do say it right. But when I was living in New York for those 12 years, I basically just go by JP or Chef. So,
even in New York, you've got some French like French American, right? French Canadian, right? Up there?
There's everything in New York, so I'm sure there's plenty of French Canadian there. But not far from the border is Montreal and Quebec, which is the biggest kind of French speaking area outside of France. Tell me that,
what brought you from South Louisiana to New York City? Just cooking? Is that what you went there for? Is that kind of the dream for you? Was that what you went like?
I've always traveled and lived for food reasons. When I actually didn't go from Louisiana to New York, I went from Louisiana to California to St. Thomas and the Virgin Islands, and then to New York. Wow. New York's just where I spent a lot of my time. But since I graduated culinary school in 2006, I spent a lot of time in Northern California, Napa Valley, San Francisco. And that was for a job. Moving to St. Thomas was for a job. Moving to New York, well, I didn't have a job in any of those places I went, but I knew I could get one. Then New York for almost 12 years. It's always been about food, man. It's always been about food since I was a little boy, from my earliest memories to today. It doesn't matter whether it's traveling or working on projects. It's always centered around that, the story that we can tell through the food we eat.
100%. Yeah, 100%. It's funny. It's funny you say that type of stuff. I in different cultures and things that I've experienced, it's always been, that's been kind of, it's that common denominator that really, connects us all together. I think it, bridges language gaps that I've had, in all my travels. That's what I want to do. Like I want to meet some people cooking in their backyard. I look for that type of stuff, and it's kind of cool. And so I think you can probably really relate with that type of, that type of stuff. So yeah,
Absolutely.
Really, really cool. And so you're in Houston now, right?
Well, I'm in Montgomery, which is, I guess, 45 minutes outside of Houston. Yeah. It's actually
all one place, isn't it?
Come to find out, it feels closer to College Station than it does to where the Astros play, or any in that central business district area of Houston. It's only 45 minutes to College Station. It's probably an hour to go see a baseball game. So
now, Had you been to Texas before this big move?
I've never lived in Texas, but I've been to Texas, many, many times. My wife's family is almost all based in Texas, where mine's a little mix of Louisiana and Texas. But this is my first time, and I tell you what, Lone Star State, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, dude.
I don't know if we'll be here forever. We may, but that's kind of the life that my wife and I live. Is nothing is permanent with us,
Right.
Everything can change. Everything is fluid, and we're not afraid to really kind of just do it,
That's good. I think more people need to be that way. It's I think people get stuck in the same kind of rut, and I think some diversity definitely helps you out. It's that culture, I always believe in culture. You got to have some culture in your world. A lot of people are too they're kind of one-minded, kind of a little narrow, especially when it comes to food. Operating some food trucks in my day and trying things that I know are badass, and people are like, I'm not eating that. I'm like, seriously? Yeah. You didn't even try it. Like, you got to at least try it.
Yeah,
spit it out if you don't like it, but really.
The mortal sin of every chef is letting their, I'm not saying you have an ego, but I'm letting their ego guide them to what they cook, when really it's about, you got to understand the people you're cooking for. And so I can be the most talented chef in the world, but if I go creating food for folks where in Berkeley, California, but I'm really cooking it in Thibodaux, Louisiana, those two, that might not hit right with the people that I'm cooking it for in Thibodaux, Louisiana, cooking like I'm from Berkeley, California. And I only mention Berkeley because it's kind of like, the birthplace of farm to table kind of eating with Alice Waters and Chez Panisse and so on. And I'm going to California in 2 weeks, and so it's just on my mind. But if I cooked like that, and even here in Texas, would it really be well received? Maybe, probably not. But that's the deadly sin, is not knowing who you're cooking for.
Yeah, I agree. I've been down that show. I've been down that road. Where I'm like, you guys are crazy. You guys would. I mean, it's like people go to Chili's all the time. Nothing wrong with that.
Here's the thing, though.
It gets packed. And golly.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I'm a big believer in this, is that food is so personable, and so personal that nobody should ever say, in my opinion, like, you're eating that cheeseburger the wrong way, or that's not the right way. Or, if you want to eat your steak well done, if that's what makes you happy, you do you and make you happy, and don't worry about all the people that say blah, blah, blah about a well done steak. Like, you have that, the core of food is, one, to nourish us, to sustain us so that we can live, right? That's core. That's got to happen. But the other part is like, right, we choose to enjoy it, or just, and by creating things that are delicious. I mean, if we just wanted to eat unseasoned plants and unseasoned grain or uncooked grain or raw meat, we could do that. That's how our ancestors ate. But we choose to make it delicious and taste good and feel good to us and smell good, and also get that pleasure kind of underneath being sustained and nourished and so on. So for all the naysayers that don't like well-done steaks or hate on people eating well-done steaks, and that's just an example of many different things that us as a culture like to point fingers at, that you need to do what makes you happy. And if that means eating, steak with no red in it, fucking enjoy that steak. Have fun with it. Eat it. Enjoy the people you eat.
Even with ketchup?
Even with ketchup, man, eat it. I actually thought about, I was talking about doing this reel with my videographer the other day. I said, man, let's get the most badass steak that we could find. Let's grill it up.
I'll do it.
Let's base it in a thing. And at the very end of the video, just like dump A1 all over it and just swipe it through or something, and be like, and that's how I like my Japanese.
If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly bear and dip that son of a bitch in ketchup. Just put in ketchup.
maybe we should make a special sauce of A1 ketchup and mayo and swipe it through that. And like, I don't know. It's just kind of funny to me how we've forgotten how, and I would say the same thing about hunting shows and same thing about hunting content is that like, have we forgotten that hunting is fun? Like that we do it for the joy of it and like being a kid again. Have we forgot that like cooking is fun and it doesn't really make a shit what it looks like on Instagram as long as the people that are with you are enjoying it with you. And I don't know. In a way, like that's what I like. I like to cook like that, and I like to hunt like that. I like to live like that. Like, let's not forget that this ain't no dress rehearsal, and and it goes by way too quick to be that serious about and have that much of an opinion about your food or other people's food, away, so on and so forth. So,
that's a good point, man.
It is, because it's true. It is. And if you just peel back that onion, it's like, oh shit, man, like this is supposed to be fun, Like, if you're cooking even for a professional job, you're not having fun doing it, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. You can say that about anything, but if you're going hunting and you're creating shows and like you really like don't want to be out there, or you're so stressed out about what the production's going to look like or what the lighting or what this next line is or if you shot the bird or not, or if you're going to get your limit or if you're going to have rain outs. Like if you're all worried about that, then you forget about actually the people that you're with and that community, and it becomes not fun. And I think that's kind of bullshit. Sorry, I don't know if you can curse or not.
No, it's cool. I got an editor. If he wanted, he could beep it out, but it's not. It's cool. I think. No, man, I think that's a great perspective on it too, and it's funny you say that because I'm guilty of everything you just talked about, 100%, and 1,000%.
So am I. I'm not. And
I think we all are, dude. Yeah. I think
I'm not absolved of that, but that's my North Star. You know what I mean? Right. And it's really helped keep me even keeled and centered, being in that mindset, which is probably why I've been somewhat successful doing what I do. I don't have a 9-to-5 job anymore. I make my own schedule. I make a living, and I do what I love to do. I get to hunt and cook for a living, but that's only because I have that North Star, right? Yeah. And I don't know. If that can help somebody else, then take it, steal it, run with it, use your own North Star. But that's what's given me some clarity, some centeredness, some not getting ahead of myself, being humble. Right. It's important.
Very. So like in your, so how long you've been I would say a professional chef for how many years now?
I graduated culinary school in 2006. So if you call that from 2006 to in 2020, I left my traditional restaurant job. So, if you consider those 14 years my professional career, then that's what it is from that, from graduation to that last job.
So the only
job I've only worked in kitchens since I was 15. I've only had a culinary job since I was 15 years old till current day. And I grew up in a very culinary focused, important family that really believed in dinner time and home cooked meals and making things from scratch and hunting and fishing and putting those things up to further the year. And so in a lot of ways, my professional career started then, not when I graduated culinary school, but way back before I even knew I was going to be a chef. And that's how I look at it, because I pull so much inspiration and knowledge and technique and ideas from the time where I was preteen, not even, barely 10. So, and I remember those very vividly.
Yeah, I did some research. I've watched a lot of your videos and things that you've created, and how you talk about how much stuff you learned just cooking wise, in the duck blind, and there's a lot of stuff learned at duck camps and deer camps. I saw one video where you were talking about all the stuff that was in the freezer, at our deer camp, and you look in there's all kinds of crap in there, and just kind of working with what you got, man. It's fun, dude.
It's called resourcefulness, right? Like if you're going to be an outdoorsman,
really create some cool stuff.
Yeah, if you're going to be an outdoorsman, you need to be resourceful. things happen out in the field. You need to better pivot and reevaluate and change and use what's around you to better do that. In the kitchen, it's all the same. But yeah, like digging through my parents, my friends' parents, my family's, cabinets and freezers and fridges and just putting things together, experimenting with flavors and textures.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking to like little boy doing that.
Yeah.
Opening mushrooms out the can and, realizing that if I pour the whole can into a skillet with butter, it won't saute. But if I drain the water out and put in hot butter, like something different happens.
That's badass.
Like that was 7 years old for me. Those are still kind of parts of cooking, right? You want them that actually are practical for me today, and when I cook for my family, like make sure you don't add too many mushrooms to the pan. Make sure they're patted dry if you're washing them so you don't add moisture to the pan. Make sure your butter's ripping hot if you're going to saute something before you put something in the pan. Like all those same
techniques,
ideas
a lot of techniques in it.
Still apply.
A lot of technique.
Yeah.
A lot of technique. And, in the chef world, even in I'm no scale of yours, but we've all had fails. I had some monster fails. I cooked for a really famous country singer and had a monster fail where all my equipment went down. And it was supposed to be where people were supposed to come up food truck style, and that's what I was told. And I had all this food, and I had a really badass menu that I put together for these people. And it was kind of a little small kind of get together with about 300 people, and I was super pumped. It was the biggest gig I ever had in my life, and I was like, dude, I shouldn't even be here. Like, they picked me out of all the people. They picked me, and so I was really pumped. And they spent a lot of money with me.
Yeah.
And so all my equipment went down completely. Like I had to pull out a small 18-inch by 18-inch grill top, and that's what I had to cook on for the duration. And at one point, they told me, people are going to come up. It's going to be slow paced. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. No. So I was making a blackened chicken sandwich is one of my menu items, and my guy working the front taking orders, he said, hey, Gabe, we need more chicken sandwiches. I said, cool, how many we got? I just cooked like 10. He's like, he already held up a stack of tickets, and he said, cook them all. I was like, oh hell, we're in trouble, Tim. And so it took 3 hours to get a chicken sandwich. I was asked politely to never come back. And so that's one of my huge fails. But I want to know yours. Like, what is have you had a giant fail like that? Have you had a monster fail?
Oh, I wouldn't say, that so much of that is like equipment and, some of that doesn't lie on you, right? I mean,
it was a huge fail.
I wouldn't say that's a huge fail, I guess, but gotcha. I can understand. Okay. Then that's, I'm hurting for you right now, but, got to look past that. But my thing is probably jambalaya, and I'm from Louisiana, obviously. Or I don't know if that's obvious or not, but I am, and I love the food from there, and I consider myself an expert of Cajun food. At least the Cajun food that I grew up with. But for the longest time, I couldn't make a jambalaya properly. I couldn't make a jambalaya in a small little pot. I couldn't make it in a big pot. I couldn't, even recipes that I followed. Right. I said I don't really follow any recipes. Like, I have a bunch of cookbooks. I don't think I've ever used a recipe from a cookbook, but I like them. But then, so cooking jambalaya was probably my biggest fails, and it wasn't just once; it was repetitively, and it was like a fail to my own pride, and my own sense, my own like identity as a Cajun man, one that was born in Louisiana. That I kept screwing up this jambalaya. I would have uncooked rice one time, I would mushy rice the other time. I'd have like 50% on certain sides on another, and it took me like 5 times of cooking it before I said, you know what, excuse me again, I'm done cooking this dish, and I've been embarrassed by it too many times. I know I'm a better cook than this, but I keep failing at this jambalaya, so I quit making it. And then, I would make like workaround recipes during that time. And then finally, as of probably like 2 years ago, I started making it again. And I've now like developed my recipe and my procedure in my head. And now I know how to do it and make it better. And I'm still trying to like perfect it for mine. But that was, call it little fails or big fails. It was 10, 12 of them before I ever started feeling any type of confidence in that dish. And I think that's what people just kind of snowballing this into another idea. What they don't realize about anything, even whether it's your job in roofing and in other various forms of content, or my job in cooking and in long format content, like it takes those repetitions to become good at something. Whether or not you consider them a fail, I rather look at them as like opportunities to learn. But I'm not gonna lie, that was the dish that like broke me for a couple years. I'm like done trying this. My friends are laughing at me because I'm the professional cook,
all eyes on you,
chef that can't cook rice properly or jambalaya. Yeah, my rice is great.
So what did you figure out what you were doing wrong?
Like, what was it there? And yeah, well, it wasn't just one thing, but it all had to do with the capture or the release of moisture. Basically, like cooking jambalaya is not much different than just steaming rice. The difference in jambalaya is that you have onion, celery, bell pepper, chicken, pork, sausage, bay leaves, other seasonings that make it different from just like steaming white rice. So ultimately it came to, I wasn't using enough. I was like when making jambalaya, a quarter cup of water matters. And it's basically a mixture of not having too much water or having too much water and not cracking the lid to let moisture escape, or having too much or not having enough water and cracking the lid and then too much moisture escapes, because you have to turn or flip your jambalaya like 70% into the process so all those other grains of rice can cook,
right?
Which is a big no-no when steaming rice. You would never touch your rice. Yeah, you would never stir your rice until you're ready. And another big thing is that I always insisted on using like white long grain rice, not converted rice like Uncle Ben's or something like that, where you can't overcook it. Like a lot of people use Uncle Ben's rice for jambalaya because you cannot overcook it. It'll never turn mushy on. Yeah, but just like long grain white rice from East Texas or West Louisiana or Arkansas, like Riceland, that takes a little more precision. And it's really, to get nerdy about it, to sum it up, it's the controlling of moisture, that access, allowing more or less moisture to stay in. Or
with all those vegetables, they're creating their own moisture anyway. Top of your water, letting it in and out. That makes sense. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's fat.
Lots of dancing in the pot
around all the rice. Salt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Salt changes the way rice cooks. Acid changes the way rice cooks.
No, it makes sense. Totally. I always wanted to know. I'm like, man, it's just kind of, that's cool that it's cool that at least you figured it out. Right? I can tell you what not to do. Here's what you don't do. That's awesome, basically, man. So I definitely want to, I would say a lot of the majority of my people that follow this are a lot of waterfowl guys. You're a waterfowl guy. Is that what you kind of cut your teeth on hunting?
It's really the only thing that we consistently hunted as a, child, teenager, adolescent years. Once I got into college, I would go deer hunting a few times a year.
Yeah.
It was always about waterfowl. It was always about duck hunting. We'd go on our dove hunts in, early fall in Louisiana. I like to hunt small game too, so like just walking oak tree groves, right, for squirrel when it's not windy. Love doing that. Love hunting rabbits with dogs. We'll shoot a deer purely for meat. If a big trophy walks out, I'm gonna knock it down. But
me too.
I hunt deer for meat. So I don't care really what it is. Actually, I'd rather shoot 2-3
I haven't found a
does.
recipe for horns yet.
So, but really, no, it hasn't.
Right.
Except to like show you how big of a man I am. They hang them on the wall, but no, I like trophy hunting's cool, and there's something to that as well. Like there's a beauty to that. But really, like waterfowl, just always connected to me, and I think it's from like that original point that I made is that didn't we forget that this was supposed to be fun? And I cannot think of a more fun hunt than sitting in a blind with nobody you know, or 5 people you know, and getting to know those people you never met before, or having just new memories to create with the 5 people you've been knowing. There's no other sport, in my opinion, that can give you that. Where you can smoke a cig and drink coffee.
It's great for kids. It's great in introducing kids to the sport, and
so
they don't have to be quiet. They don't have to be completely 100% still 99% of the time. I mean, there's been plenty of times in a goose field we've been throwing a football around, and then all of a sudden it's like, get down, it's time. And then we're like, it's that's one thing I really love about the waterfowl community, man. Is what you're talking about. It's just that camaraderie. That's what I like more. I think the trigger puller is my least favorite thing. I like hanging out with my buddies. I like meeting new people. I like traveling. I like road tripping.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally what I do during duck season is, I'm traveling 8 to 10,000 miles in 3 months. And that's what I do. I just travel from state to state and meet a lot of cool people, meet a lot of strange, odd ducks along the way. And then, finding birds and getting on them and, getting other people, man, we're on them. Like, dude, there's 1,000 sitting in this hole. Like, it's all green. Like, you got to get in here, and everybody's pumped up, and, and then you go in there and you shoot 2, and then they're like, I thought you said there was 1,000. Well, there was, but that was yesterday and it's today. So it's, hunting a migrating bird is always a challenge, but I agree, man. It's that camaraderie and getting to know people that you've either known before or people you get to meet new people, and it's the beauty of that sport, man. And that's one thing that I'm super in love with. And it's my other passion is fly fishing, man. I do a ton of saltwater fly fishing. I chase tarpon, and that's kind of my huge passion. But it still doesn't give me what I get out of duck hunting, and so it's kind of awesome. So I definitely agree with you on that, man. And other thing I wanted to ask you was, especially one for being from South Louisiana. You guys have a different. You guys cook with a lot of different things, a lot of different proteins, I wouldn't call it. And so, what is the weirdest thing or strangest thing that you've ever cooked up or eaten or seen somebody eat?
Man, I don't know, because I think it'd be as strange to a lot of people.
What would that
but it's
be?
not strange to me.
Raccoon,
for instance.
How is Nutria?
Nutria, for instance. Garfish. Nutria's great. It's a water rabbit. They're all they eat only vegetation. Like most animals, the smaller the better, and the younger the better. A juvenile blue-winged teal eats pretty good compared to a old blue-faced.
I've always wanted to try Nutria, and I've got my hands on them one time, but it was one that I had found. It was frozen face down in the water. We were going in duck hunting one morning, and it was iced over up in northeast Texas, and it was the strangest thing because we walked up to this thing, and it was frozen face down on the ice, like in 2 inches of ice. And they were poking it with a shotgun, like, "Hey, Gabe, here's one of those Nutrias you've been wanting to eat." I'm like, "Dude, I'm not gonna eat. I mean, it's dead, dude. I'm not gonna eat that thing. I don't know how long it's been dead." And they're like, "It's okay. You eat anything." And I'm like, "No, man, I'm not."
That's like
I wasn't sure about it. And so they jacking with me, right? They set my swamp stool right next to this Nutria. Well, it's It's super early in the morning. You can't see anything. I just got a headlamp. Next thing I know, this thing is alive, and it stood up on its hind legs, like in the strike position, right? And you can see its big brown teeth, and it's tracking my dog. My dog's fighting it.
Big orange teeth.
I'm like, get like it's they're fighting. It lunges, latches onto the face of my dog. They're rolling around, right? And it finally they get clear to my buddy canoes its head with a shotgun, right? And so then that was my first experience with one. Freaked me out anyway, because I was like, dude, I was just poking this thing with a stick with my shotgun, and it was KO'd, man. Like, but so I picked it up and I threw it frozen, dude.
It was
straight
frozen?
up face down. I mean, it was solid. It was solid. It was solid. I don't know what kind of adaptation that critter has, but it's freaking tough, man.
Maybe that is a testament to like how invasive and how much of a pest
can't kill it, dude.
Louisiana and to
can't kill
neighboring
it.
Coastal swamps is like
they're
hard to kill. Actually, I think the state now they're up to like $7 or $8 a tail for them. So you can go out, you can go out with like a semi-auto on the water at night, pluck away at them, get 100 tails, and turn them in.
That's a whole video we should do.
Pay you for them,
and then you can cook them up.
It's legit, and it's a well-known fact, and people do it on their land for extra cash.
What do you do?
Think about that.
I'm a Nutria killer.
$6, $7 a tail.
I think that's a badass title, man.
Yeah, dude, it's the season. You got 2 months. You got 2 months.
There's a season on them. Is there?
Yeah. I think so. Maybe not. Maybe it's like open season, but like I think they're more active during the summertime. You know, when
this one wasn't
spring and summer
active.
when they're green.
It was active for a minute, but I went to eat him. I was going to try to eat him.
Oh, it's. Yeah, I would. I think you.
Yeah, I threw him away. I put him in the boat.
Go. Oh, but if he was alive,
because that was my first. That was my first like up close and personal with that critter, and my buddy shot him with like a number 2 bird shot in the forehead, and it really canoed him pretty bad. And so I picked him up by that tail, and I couldn't. Even me, of all people, I couldn't get past it. I was like, I'm not eating that thing. I pulled the boat over, threw him in the ditch. Like, I just couldn't do it, man. And it kind of broke me.
Kind of a cool thing in Louisiana is lotus root.
Oh yeah,
nuts. And so some people call them like
but
you know what I'm talking about. They're all around. I would imagine they're in East Texas and some places too. But when you get into the shallow kind of blackwater swamps of Louisiana that have a little more like less current. And I'm pretty sure ducks love them too, because obviously, like that lotus flower comes up, it buds and it droops, then it drops its nuts down, and that's what it replants, right? And the ducks like to get all those roots and nuts too, but they actually before they turn brown and they're still green, they have a big old seed pod, maybe like 8 to 15 different holes, and that nut inside there is about the size of an acorn, and it tastes like a green peanut. Or like a chickpea, like a fresh chickpea would. And they're really delicious. And there's Cajuns during the like late spring. I don't know. Is it now? I'm getting confused whether it's like late spring or early fall, where they actually do their thing. But there's still a lot of Cajuns that do it. We do it at the camp where we shot duck camp dinners. There's a lot of lotus. And that's a pretty cool little thing if you see them.
That's not like the lily pad.
Delicious and edible.
That's not like the lily pad pods that come up, right?
They have So in French we call them granulés, which is like it just means like big pad, but really it's the lotus root. And it is a thin little stem, and it's got a big old kind of seed pod on the top that looks like a triangle, and it's got lily pads all on the water around it. Those like that triangle thing, when it's nice and green, and before it starts to get like dried, and does this. When it's like this,
I've
it's
seen
green, and inside that are
You
like
can eat
little
those.
nuts that are really,
You just eat them raw?
that are really delicious. So you can eat those. You can eat them raw, but like you can boil them, like boil peanuts. You can like blanch them in like
Really?
English peas. They taste a lot like if you ever tasted a green peanut or a boiled they're in between like it's almost like a big English pea. An English pea the size
I've
of an
seen
acorn,
them.
if you
I've
will.
seen them.
That's kind of what it looks like. And
Yeah, when I'm
like
scouting during teal season, I see them.
Yeah, so when they're green, you're in your boat.
Yeah. Damn, that's awesome.
Yep. Go before they harden up and get too mature. Those little seeds in there.
That's cool.
Are quite
I'm going to
delicious.
try that for sure, man. No, that's awesome, man. So another thing I want to talk to you about is like kind of how you got kind of mixed up with the crew from MeatEater.
When after we created season 1 of Duck Camp Dinners, with basically with sponsored like help and Split Reed Productions, and it was up on the Mossy Oak YouTube channel. MeatEater has their spices that run through Spiceology. I have my spice blends that run through Spiceology, and so they saw the show, and as some of your listeners may know, MeatEater's not MeatEater's but First Light's Waterfowl gear dropped today. Actually, you're now able to purchase like specifically First Light Waterfowl gear, and like really. They wanted some insights into, I believe, like they liked the insights into how we duck hunted in Louisiana and how we kind of the lifestyle of the Southeast through Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and so on. And we created the show. They got in contact with some folks from Spiceology who connected us. They wanted to put season 1 on their YouTube channel, which they obviously have. It did great. We did a season 2 this past duck season, and it'll be out actually August 12th of this.
Where can people see that?
Basically, a month from now or so. So we're really pumped about that. You can get that on MeatEater's YouTube channel. Episode 1 of season 2 will be out August 12th. If you haven't watched it already, a whole season is already up. Season 1. But we did that with, like, when we first shot that, we were thinking 8 to 10 minute episodes. And there was just so much to talk about and so much great footage. It ended up being, some were 20, some were 15, some were 18. This season, it's all 22 to 23 minute episodes. It's jam-packed throughout all of Louisiana. And I'm really pumped about it, man. I really am. And they've been great. Like, obviously, that show was a passion project of mine. It was one where I wanted to memorialize this place that I loved with these friends that I love doing it with. That's why I created it. It was selfish. I wanted to do it for myself. And what it turned into is people watching it and saying, man, our duck camp in Idaho is just like that. Our elk camp out west, we have a group of friends that do this every year. And what it turned into is we realized, like, everybody has their own, like, duck camp. Even though it may not be a floating duck camp in the swamps of Louisiana, it may not even be to hunt ducks, but everybody has one. Or like us hunters, we all grew up with something like that, or still go to something like that, or have some nostalgicness around those things, and it really connected with a lot of people. So that's when we kind of saw the opportunity to say, like, hey, there's maybe a bigger story that we can tell here that's outside of our own.
I love that, man. Our
own personal stories, So season 2 kind of starts to do that a little bit, and as we work into season 3, we hopefully we'll get outside Louisiana and start telling some more stories.
Dude, that's awesome.
Outside
man.
of the Bayou
that's
State.
Really awesome. So when I first got on this podcast with you, and kind of before we jumped on live, you kind of said you like to jump on these and kind of get your story out and kind of get your message out. And what is that message? Like, what is it that you're trying to spread the word of?
Man, that's a great question. And I think right now I'm just I'm really excited and really proud of the story we were able to tell for season 1 of Duck Camp Dinners. I'm even what we were able to do in season 2 and really take the state and its community and its people and its food, its music, its hunting, and all wrapped it into one season. I'm really proud of. I don't live in Louisiana anymore, and before I became a chef, there was a internally I wanted to do things to help the state that I loved, specifically in the terms of coastal conservation, preservation, and so on. I'm just not that smart, and so I'm a better cook than I am a scientist, and that's why I went the route that I did. But in a way, Duck Camp Dinners season 2 is, not to sound sappy, but kind of my love letter to the state, kind of what I've always wanted to talk about with where I grew up without being able to or not knowing how. And season 2 really gave me that platform to do it. And right now, that's
Gotcha.
my message. Is August 12th. It comes out on that MeatEater YouTube channel, and it's just something that I hope that, again, whether you're from Louisiana or not, whether you duck hunt or not, that is something that you connect to, and it reminds you that hunting is fun. Hunting's, at least the hunting that we do is always with people that we love to be around, people we like to break bread with, people we like to crack a beer with. And sharing that, and hopefully there's folks out there from all over that can really
that's awesome,
connect
man.
with that.
That's absolutely awesome, and looks like you're on the right pathway, man. You're on the I mean, tons of content. You guys, if you guys don't follow this guy on Instagram, he's cooking something. It seems like every day. I just made that damn fattening ass peaches thing. I was like, I'm making that. Like, that's it. Like, we got a bunch of peaches. I'm cooking it. He said, if we happen to have stonefruit laying around, and look, I have some laying around, we're cooking it. And so I have bourbon. I love bourbon. And I got ice cream. I'm like, we got it. So that was actually dinner one night.
So that's funny because, like, for a while, my wife would always say, like, why don't we document all the stuff that you cook? Because, I mean, I'm like, today I'm making salsa. Last week I was making peach preserves, blackberry preserves before that, pickled cherry peppers. Next week I'm doing fig preserves. And a lot of people know me as this grill and barbecue guy, but like, I cook every day, and that ranges from salads to pan roast chicken to casseroles to all these different preserves. And it's a lot of stuff I never documented before. And I would have never documented what I did with those peaches if it wasn't for my wife just saying, like, I don't think you understand that most people don't cook like this, at home. And I was like, well, it's just the way I cook. And she's like, I think people would be interested in it. You should think about documenting. And it kind of,
it's awesome.
And now that's what I use those reels for, is just like really practical, informative, hopefully easy to follow recipes.
I don't, like I said, that's why yours is easy to follow along.
Like,
I'm not a guy that measures things. Most guys aren't, I think most good guys that cook, if you know what you're doing, you know what the flavors are, you know the intensity of it. You're going to put a jalapeno in, they say it's one jalapeno. Well, how hot is that jalapeno? I'm going to taste it first. Damn, that's a hot one. We're going to put half of one in this. So, or it's not that hot. Let's add 3. So, it's kind of that thing. But I like that style, man. And for you guys out there that haven't followed this guy, you need to, after you close this down, jump on there and follow this, because I'm telling you, one thing about wild game too, and that's one thing I love about your stuff is cooking wild game, and there's a lot more to do. There's a lot more things to do with a piece of wild game. People are one dimensional, and not that there's, again, like kind of like you said, like, you enjoy the food, cook it that way. If your favorite thing in the world to eat is a duck popper, for sure, cook it. Yeah. Wrap that son of a bitch in bacon, put a jalapeno in it, throw away the duck, eat the bacon. I hear that joke all the time, but it's, but there's so much more to do with it. Yeah. And with the amount of ducks that we kill, we had to get creative, man. And, it's one of my favorite things to cook with on the planet. And I have, you open my freezer, like, holy duck, like, that's a lot of duck.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is the time of year. This is the time of year where I'm going through that freezer.
Yeah, because it's coming, man.
It's time to make room.
Yeah,
I can, dog days of summer are here, but fall will be here, and I'll be out, in long sleeves, hopefully, shooting something in the fall. Right now is the time, and they don't. No. It doesn't have to be all ground. It doesn't have to be a popper.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a pot
Right, I do
roast in
too.
a crock pot. I love all those things. But you know, I commonly ask people, they're like, what can I do with this venison loin? And I'm like, all right, well, what's your favorite thing to eat when you go to an Italian restaurant? And they're like, I don't know, chicken piccata. And I was like, well, how about you make a venison piccata with your veal loin and cut into medallions, pound it real thin, dredge it in flour, fry it in olive oil.
Yeah, do it.
Do capers, do your piccata,
Like that'll
and they're
work.
like, oh wait, like I never thought about that. Like I love the piccata at my local place. Like I could just do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah,
man,
you can just do that. You can, you can make chicken parmesan with it. You can make Bourgeois, which is a thin rolled and then braised kind of thing with it. My dad used to make duck and apples and brown butter with wild mushrooms and deglazed with bourbon, and we would eat that over.
You call
rice.
that shit
And
good.
I don't know
That's
what you call that.
it.
That's just how
That's what
he
you
loves
call
to
that,
cook them.
man. But no, dude, like it's just cool to see this type of stuff. I'm always a lot of people that I talk to about my podcast are like, Gabe, you get on the tangent, then it always direct you just all of a sudden you're talking about food, something you're making a duck blind or something out of the wall, out off the wall, and I think that's one reason why I have a lot of hunting buddies because I cook for them in the duck blind and I cook good food, like food they're not used to, and they're like, how do you cook that? And I'm like pulling out this stuff out of the cooler and like we're making food, like we're not, it's not a bunch of crap. It's good stuff. And I think that's one of those things I enjoy getting to show people like something different to do, with Waterfowl, because that's one thing I have the most of. And so just like trying to promote people to pluck, don't be lazy, pluck your duck, pluck it. Just pluck it, singe it out.
Yeah.
Don't cut the fat off. That's like getting a ribeye and cutting the fat off.
I tell you what,
you got to pluck it.
Yeah. What needs some
love.
love is like snow geese, less,
Hey.
all your lessers, your graders, those need some love because, you and I both know what happens in those fields after a lot of those big conservation hunts or just regular hunts on snows and so on.
Yeah.
And they really can be great. Not every bird should be treated. Not every bird can be treated the same. A sandhill crane won't eat the same as a mallard, and mallard won't eat the same as a teal, and a teal surely won't eat the same as a snow goose.
Yeah.
And so they're deserving of different recipes. And if I did more snow goose hunting, and I just don't do a lot of it, and I love them. I'm just not usually in the area where I can do them well. That's something that I would totally. I'm running through the grinder and I'm making summer sausage with, or I'm making pastrami with, or I'm making different charcuterie things.
I got on a
with,
dang charcuterie
100%,
curing process kick for about 2 years, and my goal to set out, I was going to learn all things to know about curing meat, and I drove my wife absolutely. I bought another refrigerator outside so that I could cure stuff that way and control it, and then because I had stuff hanging I had it hanging in her refrigerator, and she'd open the door and it looks like it was not good, and I'd have it wrapped in cheesecloth, and I had all kinds of stuff done in there, and
well, that's one of those food ways that go back hundreds, centuries, or like since before Jesus. When you talk about like drying fish, that's those type of preservation methods are centuries of history and knowledge and recipes too.
So good.
Even if you're like making duck prosciutto, like that's just like a dust of snow on a mountain of like.
I think it's a dying thing.
You know what
man.
I mean?
I think it's
like,
a dying
there's just
kind
so
of,
much to that world of.
You just don't see people doing it. My father-in-law grew up on a dairy farm. They had pigs, and his dad would, they raised all their own pork and all their own beef, of course, and he never paid attention when he was a kid when they would process these big pigs, and he was like, they would take a 55-gallon drum. All I remember is they would take a 55-gallon drum, they'd build a fire underneath it, they'd throw some ash in it, and then he goes, it was my job to freaking hook this thing by the freaking face and like dip it in and out of this water, and it was all over me, and there's crab. He goes, I didn't pay attention to what the process was, and he was telling me how they would hang it in this smokehouse, and it would hang there for X amount of days, and it would create like a rind on it, and how his dad got pissed off because the cats got to it one time, and then he went to cut into it, but they had eaten a hole through the ham in the bottom, and the cat was in the hole of the ham. So it's like, but I was like, dude, I wish you would have paid attention. Like I could use that knowledge right now. And, but no, dude, like, I learned a lot of stuff from Steve Ranella on, on that goose prosciutto, or not goose pastrami, man. Like, that's a famous thing. I carry that stuff with me in the duck blind all the time now. That stuff is phenomenal in, cold smoking it like that. God, it's good.
And what's really cool about that is like, you could can that in a jar, in a pressure cooker, and like that's like I love doing that too. I also love making 50 pounds of it and like saving it for like the future. And I've really gotten into canning lately because like all my whole muscle meat proteins, like I keep in my deep freezer. But as I start processing things, I start to like can them and preserve them so I don't use up freezer space by cryovacuuming and going back
more
into
videos,
the freezer.
man. That's what we need for that. We need to see you doing that. It's extra work.
It takes extra work.
That's okay.
It takes extra work, but it's like it's more space in your freezer, and it's now you can take that jar of goose pastrami with you that has never been in refrigeration but is preserved in a jar to the goose blind, and you're like you can eat that on crackers with a little deli mustard and be like happy as heck, so there's all kind of recipes that
for sure.
Now,
man, I could sit here and go on for hours and days about this type of stuff, and that's why I was like, man, I can't wait to get this guy on here because kind of speak the same language, and I really take that food stuff to a passion. I probably should have been a professional chef at some point in my life, but took different paths. But it was, dude, I love it, man. I have so many people that come over to my houses that tell me all the time, you should open a restaurant. I'm like, no. I had 3 food trucks running at the same time at one time. I'm good. I like to cook for fun. It's
you should not do.
It's one of those things like I like to cook off the cuff, and I freak people out when they're like, "What do you cook?" I'm like, "Well, if you come over to my house, I just need to know what you're allergic to." And then I said, "I'm going to push the envelope. If you're cool with me pushing the envelope on you, like it's okay for you to tell me you don't like it, but I carry a lot of weird stuff. If I was to die and someone's to see inside of my deep freeze, they're going to go, what kind of person was this? Like, this guy's got all kinds of weird stuff in here. But it's cool. I've raised my daughter that way to eat crazy stuff. We've had guinea pig. I've had cooked all kinds of strange things, and that freaks people out. And I got to eat some iguana. I was down tarpon fishing last year down the Keys, and I was talking to my guide, and he promised me a cast and blast where we could go down and shoot at these iguanas. And I was like, I'm going to eat them. He's like, you can't eat iguana. I'm like, yeah, you can. I heard they taste like chicken. He's like, look, you're not eating iguana. I'm like, dude, let's eat some iguana. And so he was supposed to bring the pellet gun. Yeah. We're down the Keys. We're supposed to bring the pellet gun, but he didn't bring it. And lo and behold, we see an iguana swimming across the flats. He's like, in all my years, 20 years down here, I've never seen one swimming out here. So I reach in and kill it with a selfie stick, throw it in his cooler, and then I grill it outside of my hotel and just some coals. And these people were over here, and they kept eyeballing because it still had the feet on it, And I said, after I had about 4 or 5 beers, I went and talked to this little lady, and she said, I said, hey, you know anything about cooking iguana? She goes, iguana? She says, is that what you're cooking? I said, yeah. She goes, I got to see this. And so she just goes over, opens up my little Coleman grill, and she goes, it looks like a damn cat. And I was like, it ain't a cat, I promise. It's an iguana. But I said, you want to try it? She's like, yes. And so she ate it, and I brined it in seawater. So I brined, that's all I had. So I went over to the Atlantic side where it was nice and clear. I walked out there about 100 yards, got me a 2-gallon Ziploc bag full of seawater, Learned that from Flip Pallet, where he was brining his Thanksgiving turkey in seawater.
It's a good.
And brined it, threw it in my little hotel refrigerator, and brined it for about 24 hours. Rinsed it really good. I found some local like jerk seasoning that was sourced like that. You could tell in the can like these people made it here, and threw some of that on there. Put on some low smoke and about 45 minutes. And the lady took a bite. She goes, "That's one of the best things I've ever had in my life." I'm like, "Thank you, I appreciate that." And it was awesome. Like there wasn't anything left. Super tender. Nothing crazy about it. Probably one of the best things I've ever eaten. So, yeah, dude.
Wow, that's a great story.
Oh, dude,
you should definitely make a next time.
I would.
We need to make a trip.
I'm not gonna say I would skip fishing for tarpon. It's my nemesis. But I'm telling you, those damn iguanas. If someone was to spread the word, if there was a chef that could get that out to the masses, they're kind of like they did the lionfish down there, as population control for an invasive species, people would eat the shit out of that thing. I guarantee it. Because then they're getting now that it's going to be iguanas $16 a pound. That's why. I mean, it's like my local shop here where I used to get my bone marrow that he thought I was feeding to my dogs, and I was making bone marrow for all my buddies, and then he was charging me like 50 cents for a whole femur bone that he would cut in half for me. Now it's $6 a pound for stinking. Yeah, he's like, he ain't feeding this to his dog.
Wisened up, huh?
So now now he's got him out on the counter now. I'm like, this is a scam.
It's way too. Now, I mean, cooking bone marrow is like all over Instagram.
It was my secret.
You know,
secret for a long time.
Marrow, you're basically
but cool, man.
That's been the French's.
That's where I found it. I found it at a French restaurant in Vegas, of all places. Right next to the pig ears that I had, and it was badass, dude. So, like I said, I eat a lot of.
There you go.
French is my favorite type of cuisine, just because it kind of pushed the envelope a little bit, and it's more. That's what I concentrate on, and then that kind of Creole Cajuns type. There's a good marriage in that, and so I dive into that a lot, and but I'm always cooking different stuff, man. Best thing you've ever eaten? What's the best thing? I always like that question.
Heck yeah. The thing I go back to when people ask that question is a chicken pho in Hanoi, Vietnam.
I wouldn't
probably the best thing I've ever eaten. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Southeast Asian cuisine, and that's inclusive of Cambodian, Malaysian, Vietnamese. And I'm obviously forgetting a couple countries there, but I don't know, man. To your point about French cooking, there's a huge influence of French cooking.
I mean, they had
food.
French occupied for a while
because the French colonized. Yeah, French occupied, and so that's why banh mi has pate on it.
Yeah,
you ever think about that? Like banh mi has like pork pate on it. And it's on a French style baguette
makes
loaf.
Sense.
That's where that comes from. And so for me, it's a really cool mingling of technique and flavors that are unlike anywhere else in the world because of that influence
if you like that
Southeast
type
Asian
of
kind of ingredients.
Flavors. There's a place in San Antonio which the recipe leaked. Finally, I was so excited when it leaked. I was excited when it leaked, and then I wasn't excited when it leaked because I ate it so much that it ruined it for me. But it's called Hot Joy in San Antonio. Have you heard of it?
Mm.
So they have
I've heard of it, but I have not
fat
been.
Fried chicken wing. That it starts off with a fish sauce. They reduce that fish sauce down. Stinks like catfish bait. My wife makes me cook it outside, right? So, because it literally yells. So I reduce that down by half, and then I think you add, basically you're making a fish caramel, like literally. And then you take those chicken wings and you twice fry them in cornstarch. Fry it in cornstarch, bring it out, let it sit for a little bit, hit it again, really crisps it up really good, and then you roll that in that that they call it crab fat because you use crab paste, and you mix that in with that sugar, yeah. And then, dude, and then they top it with crushed peanut and cilantro. I mean, you can't be around with arm reach because you will hit someone. It's that damn good. Like you can't quit, dude.
Yeah. Well,
your mouth doesn't know what's going on.
Like,
it's a train wreck, dude.
Salt.
It's crazy, dude. Like
big old punch of a mommy. Then you got.
It's the best. It's the best thing I've ever had. Like literally, I make it not too much because but you need to look at. You can Google the rest. It's leaked now. Yeah, it's called Hot Joy crab fat twice fried
Hot Joy
crab fat wing. Don't say it too many times fast. But it's. I'm going to tell you what you will literally call me. Thank you for showing me, because, dude. But I had to go to an Asian market to get this stuff. Which my daughter, she got to see like balut and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Which I haven't tried that yet, but I got to give her the tour of the Asian store and all the weird stuff that's in a jar there. But yeah, that's where. So I got some really good fish sauces.
Some of my favorite places.
Like that, so. Yeah, really, really fun, man. This is a little different type of show I normally run. Like I said, I finally get to talk to somebody about cooking, and which is kind of one of my huge passions next to hunting, fly fishing. But cooking is one thing I do every single day, and it pisses me off. I don't like to go out to eat because everything sucks, and I'm like, this is crap. And I throw it away, and so it takes a lot to impress me. It kind of sucks. I wish Chili's impressed me, but it doesn't, and that way I could be with everybody else that gets excited about baby.
Think about this. Think about this, though. A Southwestern egg roll at one point was like mind blowing.
Many times ago, it's
just all about timing, man. Like at one point, like those flavors were like, holy shit, I never thought about doing this. And then everybody started making them, and now they're like, whatever. But there was a time where that was like. And when that came to your hometown, you had Chili's for the first time, and you got a Southwestern egg roll. For a lot of folks, like where I was from, those flavors didn't exist, and so that was a necessary way to like start saying, like,
what else have I missed?
These flavors exist. What else can I do with them? Where else can I put them?
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get into that natural sourcing of food. Like when I'm duck hunting in the fall, up in Missouri, I'm finding mushrooms and finding all this cool stuff to cook with, and so I'm really starting to get into all that kind of crap, it'll probably kill me. I'll probably pick the wrong one, and it's going to be something stupid that kills me. So I'll get the shits and frickin'.
You're good. Yeah. You'll even have fun, or you'll get
one of the two.
You'll have fun, or you'll
man.
get full.
It's crazy, man. It's a cool world we still get to all live in, and I'm definitely we're all blessed. A lot of guys that listen to this, be thankful for the situations that you get out and get in front of this type of stuff and get to see stuff that God's created and see things like this and get to enjoy that type of stuff. And, if somebody asks you to take them, take them. That's the only way we keep this type of stuff going and, kind of fight the battle that way. And we all get hate mail and stuff, for shooting animals and things like that. But, just make sure you handle that stuff the right way. And even those people that don't like it, just handle it the right way. Be professional and don't. I see these guys post stupid crap on social media, and that's what gives us a bad rap. So, promote the food side of it because that's why I do it. Feed my family with it. I don't trust stuff that comes out of the grocery store. I don't know where it's been. I at least see this sucker die on the wing or on the hoof, or I see it come out of the water myself, and it kind of gives me a sense of hope. So. Man, dude, I had a blast talking with you. If you guys, where can everybody follow you at? What's your Instagram stuff, Facebook, all that?
Yeah. So I'm most active on Instagram, and you can find me there at Chef Jean_Paul. That's Chef JEAN_PAUL. I'm trying to put more reels, again, more practical, informative, and educational, but entertaining, I hope, reels out there. And really, like, my Instagram is really just an insights into how I cook and how I live, and I try to not be any more or any less than that. And if you like that, then give me a follow. If not, I'm sure there's a lot of other people that you'll get along with. But always show love, always show grace, no matter what. And
please do that where you're going to cook a
another
steak, a
path
badass
forward
steak, and
there,
dredge it through
Gabe.
ketchup, just so I can watch. I just want to read the comments. Please, God. That is. Oh,
yeah,
God,
that's
Jay.
the other thing.
Oh man, it's gonna light it on fire. Dude. You're gonna be like, "Holy crap, that's the best video that's ever produced!" Like, I lost 3,000 followers. But no, man, it was awesome talking to you, man. I'm glad I finally got you on here, and I'd love to jump in. Have you jump in the duck sled with us sometime, and ride along, man. It's a fun trip. How we hunt, it's a lot different than what people are used to, and we're in the process of trying to document that type of lifestyle. And that style of hunting that would. I pulled the trigger. I think I pulled the trigger just a couple of times in Texas last year. I'm mainly, throughout the Midwest from, Missouri, Kansas, a little bit of Oklahoma, Arkansas. I went into Iowa, South Dakota. I'm trying to get out west a little bit out there, but honestly, since it hasn't gotten cold south for us. We haven't had any good push of mallards, which is kind of what I like to chase a lot, and we just haven't got a push. So I go to them, and I just kind of follow that ice line. I just look at the map. Where's the ice setting up? I go 100 miles south of that, and I normally find birds. And wherever that may set up, hopefully it's in Texas, but most of the time it's not. Until it's like last bit of season, and all the birds are super smart by then, and that just makes it even more fun for me. And just changing it up, man.
Well, I'll be around up that way this
dude. Let's do it.
Season,
I'm always down. I'm down with 4 flat tires on a lowrider. So, just let me know, man. But it was definitely awesome having you on here, dude. You guys need to follow this guy, and just do it. And make sure to check us out. Make sure you follow us on you can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Make sure you like it, subscribe, and share this stuff, guys. That's how we get it out there. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies. I don't care. Hope you guys have a good day. Duck season's right around the corner, so get ready. If you're not ready, you need to be there. Gabe Spencer, the chef. Give us a follow. We'll talk to you guys soon.